Hey, this is K-Rail, live from Park City, Utah, and I am your host for Train for Longevity podcast, and this is episode number 5 today. Now, I've got a very special guest on here. He's a personal friend of mine, and he is also a fellow fasting specialist and coach, and he's got a very interesting background. I'll get to that in a second. His name is Mark Testa. We're going to come circle back with him in a minute. But before I get there, remember, if you're looking for a very good quality supplement, you're tired of being fooled and lied to and bamboozled about artificial sweeteners and colors and your pre-workout formulas and your protein powders, and for God's sakes, give yourself some pine pollen. Pine pollen is the ticket. It'll help balance your hormones. It'll help improve your brain function. It'll help improve your sexual function. And it's right in the pocket of something that's all natural and clean for your body. You can go to the Pine Pollen Superfoods website and punch in the special code POLLEN, all in capital letters 10, and get a 10% discount on your first purchase. So don't waste any more time. As soon as this podcast is over, go over there and do it. And also, if you are in need of getting in shape and getting your brain back to where it should be and balanced out and get rid of all the stress and tension in your life, then go and check out one of the Precision Fitcations that are coming to a town, not near you, but there's one coming to Breckenridge in July. Go to the Precision Fitcation website, go to the Pine Pollen Superfoods website, look at the calendar, and you will find it there. All the details will be there. Go to this retreat. It's going to change your life. Now, if that doesn't change your life, this podcast absolutely, definitely will. I promise you that. Because like I was saying in the beginning, I've got my good friend Mark Testa on the other end. Mark, how's it going today?
Very good, Kevin.
Good. It's good to see you. It's good to talk to you. It's always good to talk shop with someone who thinks like me, acts like me, and talks like me. So hopefully that's not too much for all you people to handle.
I'm better looking.
Mark is a chiropractor. He also has a background in stem cells, which we're going to talk about today for sure, because you all need to know about them if you don't know about them. He's a specialist with fasting, much like myself. And we are working on a project together coming up very soon called Food, Fasting, and Fitness. We'll get to that in a minute as well. Mark has been in the health and fitness industry as an educator for decades. He lives it. He breathes it. He's a walking example of what you should do. He has a lot of very interesting information about fasting, which we'll get into. And he's probably got some stories about his chiropractic as well. And also, he is the head marketing director for the Regenerative stem cell company as well. So without any further ado, Mark, welcome to the show. And please expand on anything that I might have missed with your background.
No, you got it pretty good. Alternative health and chiropractic and acupuncture for the last almost 28 years now, and have had just a ton of experience interacting with physicians and patients. And it's always been a great blend to do that and bring, alternative medicine into that world. And the last 8 years, I've been involved, as you mentioned, with Regenerative, world leaders in orthopedic stem cells. And so I've learned a lot about stem cells, how to use them appropriately and ethically in orthopedic injuries, and just had some platelets injected into my neck and ankle yesterday. So,
wow, you're a fresh one, huh?
Fresh, yeah, a little stiff, but already feels better.
Well, one of the things that I love, not just about you, but this whole finger pointing thing that goes on in the industry all the time is like, there's a lot of people who are divided between Eastern medicine and Western medicine. I know so many people who are just like, if it's not a pill or a drug or something like that can treat me, I don't want to hear about acupuncture. I don't want to hear about chiropractic. I don't want to hear about spirulina to balance out your hormones. I just want to take the drug or the pill. But I like the fusion of the two. I am a big left of center guy. I'm big into alternative medicine. I'm into the power of intention, yoga, all those things, and all those Eastern practices. However, I do believe there's a time and place for Western too, when all the Eastern stuff might not be working, and vice versa. I think if the Western stuff isn't working, step into the Eastern side. So I would love for everyone to just join together in harmony and everyone play in the sandbox together like I used to do in kindergarten, Millstead Elementary School. And why can't that happen? What's your take on that, Mark? Do you agree with me on that or what?
No, I do agree with you on that. And, like I said, the majority of my career has been blending those two, Eastern and Western medicine. And certainly the pendulum is swinging more towards blending that. Medicine has failed with the opioid, crisis and managing pain. And that is just one example. I mean, it's failing in a million areas as well, with the 70% of healthcare costs being spent on chronic disease and 70% of America having chronic disease, which is all lifestyle based. And you can't drug that away. You cannot giving drugs. It's obviously not working. So we're starting to see more and more of a blend of that with functional medicine physicians, MDs, chiropractors. You know, I work in a hospital-based system. I went from the back of the line of taking care of patients, you know, just starting with them seeing failures, to now the front of the line where they want to get patients to me sooner, so they don't have to give them medications and drugs. And I think people are starting to really wake up with that. There's still a lot of old thinkers out there, but that whole thinking model is starting to die down. And, you know, I think we're going to continue to see more and more collaboration in this.
Yeah, I see a lot of frustrated and angry people out on the streets, in the gym, out on the trails, etc. People I meet at parties and events that are 100% completely frustrated with the medical practice as it is these days. They've gone from doctor to doctor to doctor, getting nowhere, getting, you know, information that doesn't help them. They get prescribed 7 to 10 different medications that don't work, and if something doesn't work, they increase the dosage, they increase the milligrams, and then they get side effects, and they get another pill to treat the side effects, and it's like this spiraling out of control that I'm noticing, and people are in an outrage and they're frustrated. And you said you're starting to see more of the blend going on, but honestly, I'm starting to see more of a rebellion and people going more toward the alternative route right now, and I think that is the direction everything is going. And doctors are getting even more angsty and anxious about that, and they're prescribing more stuff, and they're trying to downplay all the left of center things even more, and saying don't take spirulina and don't take maca and don't take this and don't drink water and don't do water fasting and don't do blah blah blah, because that's not backed on science and that's not going to help you and that's not going to prove anything to you. And then these people do it anyway, and they have magnificent, marvelous results. Right. Feel no side effects. And then they're like flipping the bird to the doctors, and then like this big uproar is starting to occur, and finger pointing is going on, and it's like all this stuff. And most of the time, I don't see any finger pointing from the east side. I don't see it from the naturopaths and the chiropractors and the acupuncturists. They're all humble and quiet. They stick to themselves, and they just do their thing. It's always coming from this side over here. It's all this chatter in the ear and like FDA regulations going on. All these people over here, like the doctor side of things, just seem venomous to me all the time. And I'm just the guy in the middle here. I'm not saying this one's right or this one's right. I personally am into the alternative side, but I'm just trying to tell you all this from my perspective and what I see on the streets. I'm a man of the people, and I know a lot of people in a lot of different networks and categories, and this is what I am observing right now. And I'm just being honest with you and straight up. So that's kind of the way I'm seeing things go. And they're going more toward the stem cell treatments instead of the knee replacements. People are frustrated with that. They don't want their doctors telling them, oh yeah, you got to take this drug for the next 10 years and then get a knee replacement. And the knee replacement's only going to last for 10 years. Then you got to get a new one and a new one. And oh, you're going to need a hip replacement, and that's only going to last you this many years. Oh, you got to get a pig valve put in your heart because it's not working properly. They're getting tired of hearing that crap, and they're going to other alternative ways. And they're getting, they're not getting their symptoms treated. They're getting fixed. They're getting healed. They're getting changed for life. That is what I'm seeing. And I assume you're seeing that same kind of thing happening.
I think you're exactly right. Consumers are definitely the ones driving this forward. You know, more, you know, part of it's the way insurance is set up. You know, you go to the doctor, they're going to give you a pill. They don't have time to spend with you. They don't have time to educate you. And you're right. Consumers don't want that anymore. They go home. The internet has leveled the playing field. They look things up. They see the side effects. They're like, I don't want to take this. Yeah. What else can I do? And they go down the, Google search and find, oh, fish oil might actually do good with this. Maybe I should, try some B vitamins. Maybe. So I think
collagen and stuff too.
Yeah, collagen is awesome. I think that they're the ones driving this forward and making these changes because they don't want medicine as usual. And all they need to do is look at their family and their friends and see that, that's not working, right? They can see that. So it's good that they're taking things into their own hands and starting to, find more natural, sustainable ways of regaining health and being healthy. I see consumers as the driving force behind that. And, the saying, people are down on what they're not up on. So, physicians, it's not their fault, really. They just don't have time to study alternative medicine. They went to school, they learned a paradigm, they're in that paradigm. And I've worked in primary care. they're on the treadmill seeing 30 or 40 patients a day, from everything from colds to cancer, and they got to change their hat, every 15 minutes to treat a different condition, and their only tool is medication. So they don't even know any other options. So, consumers can do it. Good thing is, where you live, where I live in Colorado, there's a lot of good alternative medicine providers, and there's a lot of evidence now, scientific evidence for what we do. And so when people say there's no studies, there's no evidence, there's no science, that's just completely inaccurate.
Yeah, I totally agree 100% on that. And I have reason to believe a lot of these studies anyway are skewed, or it's like whoever has the deeper pockets can make the study look the way they want to look. Like if Muscle Milk is telling me, oh yeah, Muscle Milk is the greatest supplement in the world because XYZ reason, I'll be like, okay, well, it's got aspartame, potassium, and F, D, and C, Red 4 in it. How is that good for you? Because I can find a study that tells me that stuff cakes up on your kidneys and causes tumors to develop. And I happen to know there's studies out there that have shown mice that have died from brain cancer, and they lanced the tumors up and found aspartame, potassium in the tumors. So if you're sitting here telling me that that's healthy and good for you, you're a liar. And I'm just using that as an example, just for the record. And in the big picture, you're right, we do live in towns that are favorable for this whole methodology that we're talking about. And in my town, I do believe there's 2 actual East-West medicine hospitals just in my town alone, in Park City here, which I'm psyched about that. That's awesome when they actually do come together. And I actually know some people personally who are both trained as MDs through the regular physician schooling, and they're like naturopath at the same time, or they went through both modalities and have both of those at the same time. And I can't think of anything better than that, have them both at the same.
So, yeah, absolutely. That is, those are rare, but those are some of the best. And that's what I've learned a lot. I've been like you my whole career, Eastern medicine, acupuncture, herbs, vitamins, chiropractic. But when I started practicing with MDs, I learned a lot there. There were a lot of people who came to me that I could not help, that actually, needed some of that. Now, is it because the methodologies don't work, or because the people don't want to make the changes? They don't want to do the work on their end. It's a little bit of both. Well, it's not that the methodologies don't work. It's that either people are too sick, too far gone, or they don't want to make the changes. They don't have the wherewithal. They don't have whatever's holding them back. And then the only thing that you can do is give them to the MD and say, give them some drugs, right? So being healthy takes input, your own. It takes your own volition. It takes your own, reasons to do that, to whether you're fasting, whether you're eating fruits and vegetables, whether you're exercising, no one can make you do that. Like I always say, health happens outside of in between office visits. It doesn't happen when you're in with me. That's not where you get healthy. I can give you some advice, but it's all up to you after that. So
it's like, what are you going to do when you leave? What are you going to do when I leave the room? So if someone's like working out with me, if I'm training somebody, what are you going to do when I leave the room? You can be motivated and I can get you going here, but are you going to carry on those habits when I leave? And if they come and see you and you give them all this advice about, how to sit properly and better mechanics, and you're doing chiropractic on someone or acupuncture, and you make a couple suggestions on fasting or food, what's going to happen when you leave the room? It's like people have to take ownership for their own thing. That's the key thing.
Yeah.
Which is a good segue into what I want to go into next. So I want to talk a little bit about stem cells. So that has become a really big buzzword over the past 5 to 6 years, maybe even 10 years now, I would say. And a lot of people are resorting to stem cell treatments to help fix their aching shoulders from years ago, their elbows, their knees, their joints. You just got tapped in the ankle and neck, it sounds like. So let's talk about the difference between stem cells and PRP and why someone would want to do that. And then we're going to talk about, we're going right into fasting after that, because it's a good segue to get into it. And we're going to talk about going into stem cells the best way before treatment. Then we're going to talk about fasting, because there's a relationship between using your body, again, we'll go back to that, to its advantage on boosting stem cells naturally. But first, I want you to tell the crowd a little bit about the difference between stem cell treatment and PRP.
So that's a great question. I think they're on a spectrum of healing. They're on a spectrum. So platelet-rich plasma, your body's own platelets, have a certain capacity to heal certain tissues, ligaments and tendons in particular. And there's growth factors and anti-inflammatories and cytokines within those platelets that can stimulate healing. They call in inflammatory chemicals, right? People forget inflammation is the first step in healing. You know, it's when it gets out of control and it becomes systemic inflammation from poor diet that it's bad and affects the health in an adverse way. But acute inflammation is actually healing, and the platelets can do that. And not all platelet procedures are created equal. And Kevin, as you mentioned, I've been working with Regenerative for the last 8 years, and they are really, you know, knowing what I know about the space, the world leaders in this, because they have a platform where they can create special concentrations of PRP. They have ways of breaking the platelets open to release the growth factors really immediately. And then they have ways to delay the onset of the growth factors and the healing chemicals. So you can get a spectrum of healing results from that. That's what I had injected into my neck facets, into the ligaments to tighten it. That's what I had injected into my ankle ligaments from a surgery I had 35 years ago. When I saw the surgeon 20 years ago, he wanted to do a fusion back then.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, and my neck, you know, from sports and car accidents is, you know, probably a surgeon would like to fuse that, but I get great results with that, with platelet-rich plasma and PRP. Now, stem cells on the other side, you know, there's a lot of misconception on stem cells. There's a lot out there. There's what people are calling amniotic stem cells, and that's an off-the-shelf, you know, vial of growth factors. There's absolutely no living stem cells in amniotic stem cells. And people say that all the time. Consumers are misled in believing that there are stem cells in this because, frankly, I think doctors don't know. Sales reps come in and say there's stem cells in this. It's called amniotic stem cells. And so there's a lot of...
They see it as so the doctor blindly believes what they're saying. They look at it as an extra profit center for them. And they start advertising, we now have amniotic stem cells, so anybody who's interested to come on aboard, and they go cha-ching, cha-ching. And again, not that the doctor is doing anything dastardly or evil, he's just being misled by a representative. That's what it sounds like.
To a large extent, that's absolutely true, and they're being misled. And so then they, you know, say what they learned from a rep, and it's inaccurate. So there's these amniotic stem cells which have amniotic growth factors. There's no living cells in them. FDA does not allow that, for one. So, you know, there's a contradiction in saying that, but knowing that FDA does not allow it. So again, people don't know what they don't know. There's growth factors in there. They can be helpful, but they are not stem cells. Regenerative uses bone marrow for stem cells. About 80% of all the research in the world on stem cells for orthopedic conditions is bone marrow. They take it out of the iliac crest of the patient, concentrate it, and re-inject it right back where it needs to go to heal the tissue. That has a larger healing capacity. It calls in different cells. Some of the mesenchymal stem cells can turn into bone, ligament, cartilage, and tendon. And so when placed right where they need to go with fluoroscopy or ultrasound, they can stimulate a really good healing response there. Everyone is not a candidate for this stuff. So you need to go to an ethical doctor who has experience knowing who is a good candidate and who's not. And for example, you know, because of the Regenerative registry with over 20,000 patients, they've been tracking this data since 2005. They were the first ones to start doing this in the United States. We know men over 55 with bad hip internal rotation are not good candidates for a stem cell procedure in the hip. They're just not. So again, you know, if you know that, you can be transparent to your patient. But if you don't know that, which most people don't, you're going to offer them a blind injection into the hip with amniotic stem cells for $6 or $7 grand, and they're not going to get any result. So, you know, there's a large spectrum of quality out there in that regenerative medicine space. And so, you know, I encourage people to do their research and ask the hard questions. You know, what are you using? Where are you getting the cells from? Are you using ultrasound or fluoroscopy to get them injected? What is your experience? Do you have any research on what you've been doing? For example, the amniotic stem cells really don't have any research on orthopedic conditions, or maybe one study. It's very limited. Whereas, you know, bone marrow has, you know, numerous, hundreds of studies on it. So, and then there's fat, which is another source of stem cells, which now FDA has ruled to be illegal to use in the United States, because to get the stem cells out of the fat globule, you have to do more than minimal manipulation. You have to use chemicals to do that, and FDA is not, saying that is legal. They're saying that's an illegal use of stem cells. So if you're getting fat-based stem cells, that doctor is breaking the law to do that. Amniotic products have no stem cells. Bone marrow is the best source of stem cells for orthopedic conditions, and they come right out of you and go right back into you.
Well, that is all really good information. That cleared the air on a lot of things. I'm curious though, where are they getting these amniotic growth factors from? These people that are pitching them or using them?
So when pregnant moms go into the hospital, somebody's consenting them, and when their water breaks, they collect that, and that's where they get it from. So
wow.
Right, birth water, and so here's why there's no living tissue in it. You can't just take that from somebody and give it to somebody else. Who knows what that mom has or what's in it? So all of it has to get refined, gamma irradiated, right, to kill everything that's in it. So when you gamma irradiate something, there's no living cells left afterwards. But
geez, that just sounds horrible. It sounds like the irradiation with which they do the food and stuff like that.
Exactly. Same thing. So that's where they get it. It's not inexpensive. I think we calculated one birth mother's water was equivalent to a couple $100,000 in sales of the little vial that they sell to doctors. So it's quite a profit center, and a lot of companies have gotten on board with that because the way healthcare is going, reimbursements for doctors are going down, and they're looking for ways to augment their income. And this is one way. You don't have to be skilled at getting bone marrow out. You can buy this stuff from the rep, take it off the shelf when you need it, squirt it into a vial, and inject it into your knee.
Oh my gosh, that's a racket.
A little bit.
Sad.
Yeah.
So to say it's safe to say for the people listening at home, if someone has an ailing elbow injury, they have a tennis elbow, they've got cartilage issues with their knee or whatever, would you say that it's if they on a pain threshold, that should be kind of like where they base if they want the decision on going into the idea of getting stem cells done or PRP? And would you say that someone who has less damage or less pain might be a better candidate for PRP as opposed to stem cells? Is that what you mean, like a continuum as well? Like the more severe the degradation of the knee joint, the better chance it is that they'll be diagnosed by a doctor to get stem cells as opposed to PRP. Do you think that's a safe assessment to make?
Yeah, that's a safe assessment. I think, again, going to a good doctor who can use ultrasound to image things, because you can look at a tendon under ultrasound and just see how frayed and damaged it is. So if you've exhausted conservative care, meaning physical therapy and ART, active release technique, and some other things, dry needling, acupuncture, and none of those are working, then it's time to go to the next step. So a tennis elbow, ankle ligament, those would probably be imaged with ultrasound because they're superficial and you can see them, and you can then likely use PRP. That said, a ligament in the knee like the ACL, right, which we treat all the time, is better served because it's under a lot of force with stem cells. So since I don't actually do these procedures, I can't give you a yes, no on all that, but there is a spectrum of which tissue and how severe. So when you get into a joint, especially a degenerated knee joint, you need stem cells in there. You need as much healing capacity as possible to change that environment from a catabolic to an anabolic state, and to strengthen ligaments and have the potential to improve the meniscus. So yeah, there's a spectrum. And even earlier on, if it's not really bad, prolotherapy has always been a good technique. Prolotherapy is hypertonic dextrose, sugar water, that causes inflammation and proliferation of fibroblasts to come to an area to stimulate healing. Before this was around, that was the early regenerative medicine. I think is back as far as the 30s, and still can be very beneficial. at a, depending who you go to, at a fraction of the cost.
Well, that is absolutely fascinating. I've heard of prolotherapy as well. And I'm a huge fan of using the body's mechanisms to your advantage and healing yourself from the inside out, outside in, through what Mother Nature gave you, which is always no more than an arm's reach away. We try to make things too complicated all the time as humans, and we have to stop doing that. And we have to get out of our own way. We got to release and surrender. And that's what brings us to our next topic, which is fasting, which is in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of myths out there about it. There are a lot of half-truths about it. There are a lot of self-proclaimed experts out there. There was some dude, I watched a video on YouTube yesterday. He was going on and on for like 10, 15 minutes, saying how he's like this physique specialist for all the stars in Hollywood or something. And he's saying, oh, my routine is blah, blah, blah. I don't eat till 2:30 in the afternoon, and I work out at this time. I work out at 12:30, fasted. And then he's like, so, yeah, I just got done my workout, and all I had was a cup of coffee at 10 o'clock this morning, a pre-workout formula, and amino acids right before I worked out. And I went, wait, what? What did I just hear? So he's sitting there telling you that he's fasting, and then he's having a pre-workout formula amino acids right before his workout. I'm like, bro, you're not fasting. You're faking it. And yes, you're going to get ripped. He's like, look at me after my workout. And he's like showing his muscles and veins are popping out of veins. I was laughing so hard I almost fell over. And then I was disgusted because there's idiots like this that are getting all this attention out there and adrenaline and like energy from people. And yeah, if you follow what he's doing, of course you're going to get in better shape. You're going to eat different. You're not going to eat as much. You're going to clear your calories. You're going to work out. Magic is going to happen. Oh, and those pre-workout amino acids, they're going to make your veins about this big round, I might add, because they're vasodilators. So it's going to make you look like this massive Hulk guy, and you're getting everybody fooled into believe what you're doing is legit. Dude, if you're fasting, you're fasting. You're not taking pre-workouts. You're not taking anything that's going to stimulate a reaction with your organs or your adrenal system. That's the true definition of fasting, and that's the true definition of working out in a fasted state. Believe me, I know this topic better than anybody in the world. So I am not just, I'm insulted, I'm embarrassed when I see things like that. Sorry, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox, everyone. Let me take a quick breath. Okay, I'm cool. I'm cool. We're good. I just had to get that out of my system because it was welling up inside me. So in my world, fasting is fasting. It's not pre-workout formulas. It's not amino acids. It's not branched chain amino acids. It's not drinking coffee with fat in it and all that stuff. You're either fasting or you're not. I am a purist. I am 100% dedicated to fasting. When I'm fasting, I'm fasting. If I'm not fasting, I will say, I'm not fasting. I'm taking a pre-workout before my workout today because I need a little more energy. And I'm taking one without aspartame, potassium, and FD&C red leg number 4 in it, I might add, if I'm taking one at all, just for the record. So that brings me up to this. Mark, fasting and stem cells. Let's talk about that. We're going to jump like way ahead with fasting. This is a little deeper than like your average like time-restricted feeding windows and stuff. We'll get into that in a minute, but let's kind of go in reverse here. Because we're talking about stem cells, I want to talk about the stem cell dump you can get through fasting. So people, if you're unfamiliar with this, there is a way to boost your own body's mechanism, not just through the extraction of stem cells through your iliac crest and getting a stem cell treatment, but you can also go one better by producing your body's own stem cells and getting them to explode even to a higher rate, and we call that a stem cell dump. So Mark, I'll let you take the floor on this.
So yeah, so we'll give the full credit to Walter Longo and his research lab out of USC, who really discovered this, in the last 30 years, but in their clinical trial with patients. So they fasted for 5 days using the fasting mimicking diet, which we can talk about. But after autophagy, when your body is eating the weak and dead and useless cells in it, and there is atrophy of organs with fasting, except the testicles and the brain, the body knows that it needs to rebuild that. And so I believe the number was a 600% increase in mesenchymal stem cells and hemopoietic stem cells when you started to re-eat. So 5th day you're done, 6th day you start eating, stem cells just go through the roof because the body knows it needs to rebuild itself. It knows. And so these mesenchymal stem cells, same ones that come out of bone marrow, that can grow ligaments, cartilage, tendon, musculoskeletal systems, increase to rebuild and regrow, what has atrophied during the fasting period. And then hemopoietic stem cells that stimulate red blood cell production and new white blood cells. So some of the autophagy occurs with the old, weak, dying sick white blood cells, which are usually, jacked up in autoimmune diseases. And then, so when the body consumes that during the autophagy phase of fasting, then it needs to rebuild those. And so hemopoietic stem cells are released, and the body rebuilds the red and white cells through that release of stem cells. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to get a stem cell procedure, it'd be great to go into it on that 6th or 7th day after a fast. They're going to extract your bone marrow, they're going to re-inject it, but you're also going to have all these circulating stem cells in your body occurring at the same time. Now, you can also, get a boost on a quarterly basis this way as well, which I would recommend to people, and just get a complete multi-systemic rejuvenation as a result of fasting, and then there's stem cell release that your body naturally does.
Well, again, that is all very good take-home information for anyone out there entertaining the idea of getting a stem cell treatment. And if you have never fasted before, obviously we're not going to sit here and tell you to do a 5-day fast, a 2-day fast, or 3-day fast, or anything like that. It's much like fitness or barefoot running. People ask me all the time, like, did I see you running barefoot the other day? I'm like, yeah, I was running barefoot. That's how I do it. I run barefoot. They're like, wow, I want to try that sometime. And I'm like, well, it's not as easy as just ripping your shoes off and run down the street. It could take 12 to 18 months to learn how to run barefoot properly. And fasting is much the same way. I'm not going to say it'll take 12 to 18 months to master it or to do it, but you want to take small, gradual steps into fasting. You want to wean your way into it. You don't want to just go, I do 48-hour fast every single week. That's not how it works. You won't make it 2 hours because your brain is going to play tricks on you. It's a gradual process. And once you are able to get there, however, into the 36 plus, the 48-hour fasting range, that's when phase 1 kicks in, which is autophagy, which Mark mentioned. So autophagy is the first process that occurs where your body is not stupid. It doesn't go to your healthy cells and start breaking down muscle and breaking down all this good stuff in brain cells. It takes all of the crap out of your system that you don't need. So it's almost like you're doing a supercharged, really fast detox or a cleanse, which people always talk about. And I think cleanses are a little bogus in my opinion. Anytime you're taking in calories or any kind of thing, it's not really doing anything. You're just like eating healthy or clean. Yeah, it's good for the body, but that's a whole different ballgame. But the autophagy first phase is something you always want to aspire to try to get to down the road. And if you can continually do that on a monthly basis, you're going to be in really great shape physically and mentally and emotionally. So that's like Mark was saying, when your body starts breaking down all the dead scavenger cells in your system that it doesn't need, and it flushes them right out. So that is what really turns the corner for you. And that is a big game changer in life, in my opinion. So I always try to get people to aspire to get to the point where they're getting to the 36 to 48-hour range of fasting to hit the autophagy and then come out of it the other side and get that stem cell dump at the other end. Now, I would like to address with you, Mark, the difference between people that are doing these longer fasts and the rate at which they may go into autophagy and stem cell and getting a stem cell dump. Now, I have reason to believe if you're eating clean, eating healthy, and you already follow like a time-restricted plan, your body slowly starts going in that direction of the fast healing and getting the autophagy anyway. And then when you hit say a 2-day fast, you're going to hit autophagy faster than someone who has been eating like McDonald's and fast food and like horrible diet, and all of a sudden has like the willpower to do like a 3-day fast. Do you agree with me that someone who eats unhealthy and then just jumps into a longer fast, 4 or 5 days, a prolonged fast, it's going to take them longer to get into autophagy and get a stem cell dump than someone like you or I who eat all clean all the time, and then we decide to do a 2-day fast? Do you think it's quicker? Do you think we would get into a fast quicker, an autophagy position quicker if we eat healthy all the time than as if we don't? So there's a lot of people out there listening who probably are like, they may eat 6 meals a day right now. They may eat whatever. That's fine by me. But their diet may be clean and they're looking to start doing fasting. So those people that are already eating clean, do you feel that they already set a good foundation up? Because I have reason to believe, yes, that is absolutely 100% the case. And then when they start doing the longer fast, they're going to respond faster. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I definitely think that if you're already eating clean and you are, not eating, I'm not a fan of the 6 meal a day diet program in the least. And I know you're not either.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I do think that, that it'll be easier for someone like that versus someone who does not eat that way, because, when you're eating clean and you're not overeating, your body knows how to, and you're not eating 6 meals a day, your body knows how to start to look for other sources of fuel. and goes into gluconeogenesis of burning fat sooner. And you've probably had clients, I've seen patients that are, they crash after 4 hours. They got to eat again because their body has absolutely no idea how to do that. It's been using glucose for fuel forever because they eat poorly and they eat a lot of sugar or refined sugar or simple carbohydrates, and the body burns through that quickly, and then boom, they bonk and they need to eat again. So it is easier for someone to go into a fasting mode and likely into autophagy if their body knows what it's doing and knows how to find and utilize alternative fuel sources like fat.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. And for those of you that do eat multiple meals a day, I'm not throwing you under the bus or anything by any means. I was once one of those people years ago when I was going through my learning curve, and I had to have 6 meals a day. There's no questions asked. So here's the problem with that. Every time you eat something, if it has protein and carbs in it, especially carbs, your blood sugar is going to go up. Even protein will cause your blood sugar to go up a little bit because it has an effect on glycogen. People don't know that a lot of times. So these protein heads are always eating like protein all day long. That's one of the worst things you could possibly do. And that's also a marker for setting yourself up for disease risk down the road, which we'll get to in a minute about the dangers of high protein diet. So now when you eat the 6 meals a day thing, on paper it sounds legitimate and it sounds like it's going to work. Like you're going to eat a small meal that's balanced with protein, carbs, and fat. That's the whole deal, right? So when that happens, you are getting some glycogen in your system through the medium of carbohydrates and protein. So your blood sugar is going to rise. It's not going to spike, but it's going to rise. So about right here maybe, okay? Now, whenever your blood sugar goes up, even if it's this much, pancreas releases insulin to balance this out. So pancreas just released insulin. We have a balance going on here. This starts going down just a little bit. You eat another meal, it goes back up. Insulin was thinking of going down, but insulin didn't go down. Insulin stayed up. It said, oh, okay, blood sugar's still here. I'm going to stay here. So basically, your insulin is following your blood sugar all day like this. So what's happening is your pancreas is over here and it just keeps on giving you this steady flow of insulin all day long from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night when you go to bed. So your last meal of the day, cottage cheese, whey protein shake, you get in the middle of the night, great. I need my protein, amino acids when I'm sleeping and all that stuff. Here's the problem. Every single day that this goes on, your pancreas is constantly giving out this little bit of insulin. It's always working. So your insulin level literally is elevated all day long. So that is just as bad as eating like French fries and a banana split for lunch, because your insulin is always being released. That's what causes the problem down the road, and that's what's a marker. That's what's a massive risk factor for diabetes to develop, and that's why people that are older adults, their pancreas starts shutting down and diabetes starts to appear. That happened to my grandparents, happened to my mom. I recognized the signs. I dropped out of that years ago, and I figured it out. Now, when you eat 1 or 2 meals a day, balanced meal right here, big old balanced lunch right here, protein, carbs, and fat, everything comes up. Blood sugar goes up, insulin goes up. And here's what happens. Everything comes back down. No snacks in between. Everything comes back to normal. You got a nice 2 to 3 hours of levelness. No insulin, no blood sugar, no nothing. Energy levels are up here. Brain function's up here. You eat again. It happens again. Everything comes back to normal. Life goes on. No dangers. So that is the reason why the 6 meals a day does not work properly. And people that say, yeah, I had a piece of fruit and I had a piece of cheese, that was my 3rd meal of the day. Not good. And, you know, I think, Mark, I believe it was invented maybe by I think there's 2 reasons why. First, when bodybuilding started to become popular in the 70s, they were eating a ton of calories to try to bulk up and get bigger. And the only way they can do that is by eating multiple meals throughout the day. Instead of eating like 2 huge meals or 3 huge meals, I think it just kind of happened that they started eating all this food. Supplement companies caught on to it, and they said, let's make it easier for them. So we'll make a pre-workout shake, or we'll make a meal replacement shake and protein powders and all this stuff so they can make smoothies and things like that. And it'll be a wonderful world that we live in. And then they started doing their own research and saying how 6 meals a day balance out blood sugar and it's good for diabetes and blah, blah, blah. But it's actually completely opposite. So I think because the supplement industries got involved, they started saying, alternate between a meal and a shake and a meal and a shake all day long and buy our shakes because they're balanced with protein, carbs, and fat and won't do anything to your blood sugar and blah, 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 blah. So it just turned into this big fiasco and mess. And that's my take on it. What do you think? Is that kind of what you believe happened?
I'm not sure how that happened, but I definitely think it, got hold in a way that, until recently, carbohydrates were the big thing. And so, low fat And so people started like, going down that trend. I'm not sure what the trigger was, but I can tell you just like, even when I first heard that, I was like, where did our ancestors get 6 meals a day?
Right?
I'm not even talking about, Paleolithic man 15, 20,000 years ago. When people tell me this, or they tell me they're eating 200 grams of protein, I'm like, where did your grandparents even get that much food? Right?
Yeah.
It's just not ever been that way. If you want a good history of mankind, the book Sapien by the author's last name is Harari is awesome, because he talks about like how we foraged and how we went days and periods of time without food, and how our body adapted for that. So it just never really made sense. And I'm sure there was some marketing behind that. There always is. And for some people, for whatever reason, it worked. But, taking care of patients like I have, and I feel like, that's what, kind of sets me apart from the internet gurus, is like, I take care of people. I have taken care of humans for almost 30 years. You got to give things that are sustainable, that they can do, not something they're going to do for 8 weeks, lose weight, and then balloon beyond where they started. So what I've seen with patients is the 6 meal a day thing is not really very sustainable. And then they get this thing programmed into their mind. And this I see a lot. We have to be careful as healthcare providers what we say to people, because you can program the mind with a stupid statement like, oh, you got to eat 6 meals a day. You feel like this because your blood sugar is dropping. Mm-hmm. And when I see patients and they tell me that, I'm like, yeah, that's not the problem in the least. And they believe that, and then they stick to a regime like 6 meals a day for the wrong reasons. So I'm sure there was marketing behind it, and I'm sure it worked for some people. But you're right, with the insulin constantly being upregulated by constantly feeding the body, eventually, one, you're going to develop diabetes potentially, and two, insulin is the storage molecule, and after a while, it's going to start to store that excess energy as fat.
I know, and that's another point about the insulin thing that I didn't bring up, and it's kind of like contradictory to what the experts are telling you about the 6 meals a day, because they're saying it's going to cause weight loss because your metabolism is always elevated and blah blah blah. Well, I'm going to put to rest the 6 meal a day metabolism issue right now. So I'm currently doing a specific fasting protocol, and once a month I do 48 hours. I do that anyway, and then I do 24-hour fast twice a week, and then I do 16-8 pattern other than that. So I did 3 resting metabolic rate tests over the past month. I did one at 48 hours fasted, one at 24 hours fasted, and one at 16 hours fasted. And I did them deliberately to find out if it is actually true that your metabolism slows down when you don't eat. So the interesting finding that I came upon was this. My metabolism was above average at 48 hours. It was below average at 24, and it was even more below average at 16. So you go and tell me what that tells you. Hello. I just kind of proved wrong the theory that if you don't eat for a long period of time, your metabolism is going to slow down, you're going to get fat. It's completely opposite, folks. I would say the longer you go without food, the higher your metabolism is going to be. And on average, if you fasted for 5 or 6 days in a row, some people tell me all the time, you're too skinny, you're too lean, and blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't be fasting. It's dangerous. No, it's not true. You basically would lose a half a pound a day if you did fasting and just lived like a normal lifestyle and didn't do a lot of physical activity, etc. Of course, I push the gamut because I'm a research project in motion all the time, always researching. So I try to go longer periods without food, longer periods without eating, and doing fitness and doing 3-hour workouts and doing as hard as I can and finding out the results of those. So I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. These people are always like food, 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 food all day long. I'm like, let's see how far I can go without food. I'm more like a camel. I always have been. And I often like to go without water too. I sip water sometimes because I'm like, I don't like running to the bathroom 55 times a day. And I'm like, I'm down to do a dry fast one of these days. But now that it's summertime and I'm outside a lot, I'm hot, and I'll get into danger. I'll get dehydrated. So I can't really do it. But maybe in the fall, I'm going to experiment with the dry fast for like 24, maybe 48 hours, just for kicks. But I want to talk to you about protein now. We talked about a little bit about this on our Facebook Live a couple weeks ago, but I want to bring it back up and go a little more into detail about it. Protein can knock you out of a fast, first of all, quickly. And because amino acids are the precursors of protein, I feel that if you take amino acids during a fast, they will knock you out of a fast too. Pretty much, I think anything that you take during a fast will knock you out of it. Even if it's coffee, even if it's green tea or anything like that. It will basically keep you, losing weight and all those kind of things that you want to get from fasting. However, when you take those things in, I think what's going to happen is at the tail end of the fast, after 24 hours is up or after 48 hours is up, you're not going to get those additional benefits. You're not going to get your autophagy. You're not going to get your stem cell dump because you did something at the front end of your fast. What's your take on that, Mark?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Again, out of USC, Walter Longo's lab, they identified these nutrient sensing pathways that upregulate everything in our body, and they are turned on with glucose and protein, certain amino acids. And so when you start ingesting these things, insulin-like growth factor, protein kinase A, which is also stimulated by caffeine, so coffee.
There we go.
Out of a fast, and mTOR are all triggered by certain amino acids and glucose. Now it's interesting with the Prolon fast, it's all plant-based, and so you can eat a certain plant-based diet, and I can't tell you what that is. They've figured it out with their program, but my understanding is that like animal protein, which is a complete protein, it's a big punch of protein, will turn this on. That's why bodybuilders get huge when they eat a ton of protein. mTOR and insulin-like growth factor cause growth of cells. Mm-hmm. And after 50, guess what else grows? Tumors. Yeah, we've had 50 years of like turning these genes and pathways on with poor diet. Whereas conversely, a plant-based diet largely is an incomplete amino acids, does not turn these pathways on maximal, force like an animal-based protein. So yeah, glucose, to a lesser extent caffeine, and to a greater extent protein, turn these, again, mTOR, protein kinase A, and insulin-like growth factor, IGF, on, which stimulates cell growth and cell metabolism. Fine when you're a kid, not so fine as you become, older. And, all you got to do is look around and just see how big people are getting. Like, I was just in a facility last week where I hadn't seen people for over a year. And what I noticed is like literally everyone got fatter. Everyone was bigger from the year before when I saw them. And I just think like how the standard American eats. And it's, we've been convinced that more protein is better because we can displace carbohydrates and eat more paleo or whatever. But at the end of the day, man, we're still turning on these growth hormones that are, especially after 50, in my opinion, dangerous. And that's when we see people getting, cancers and other health conditions that become chronic health conditions that they live on a pill till they die. So yeah, there's simpler ways to deal with that, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with that 100%. And, I'm not vegan. I'm what you call a flexitarian. So I'll eat eggs. I'll eat meat every now and then. My body actually does really good with red meat. I don't eat it very often, but when I do, I feel really solid and I feel very like energized mentally, physically, and everything. But I don't feel that you have to. I think plant-based is totally fine for anyone, especially when you're doing a fasting protocol and you're only eating like 1 to 2 meals a day. Even if you're eating meat, you can only eat so much in a sitting. And I don't recommend eating more than 30 grams of protein in any one sitting, to be honest with you. So even if you have 2 servings of animal protein a day in a 2-meal plan, always make sure that it's free of hormones and antibiotics, I might add. But even then, you're getting like 60 grams. That's no big deal. The people that are eating like 1 to 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight every day, 7 days a week, and they're eating 6 meals a day and they're constantly eating the protein, that's where you got to kind of raise the alarm button a little bit. And having shakes with like 60 grams of protein in it right after a workout and stuff, that's just so much, to me, it's so taxing on the system and on the body. And it's that overabundance. We can't just have balance. Balance is what makes the world go round, in my opinion. And you can get balance through a vegan diet, you can get it through a flexitarian diet, you can get it through eating a meat, you can do it paleo, you can do it keto. And a lot of people have misconception about the keto diet as well. I think it's totally fine. The keto diet is high fat, moderate protein, low carbs, just to clear the air for those of you that are unsure. So you want fat to be your primary macronutrient, and then protein somewhere in the middle, and then carbs as your lowest one. And you definitely want to get a lot of fibrous vegetables in that diet as well, because you don't want your insides to be locked up, because that's, my father died from colon cancer. So I'm big into getting a lot of fiber in my diet. That's one of the main things that I focus on. Make sure I get a ton of fiber, especially when I'm eating like only 2 meals a day or even 1 meal a day. I try to get as much as I can in those meals, and I make them big and huge. So all these things are kind of what you have to reprogram yourself into believing and thinking and doing, and go down this direction. And don't be fooled by everyone who's telling you protein, protein, protein. You only need so much. Muscles build by being torn down and ripped, and then you have to have the proper nutrients to bring them back into healing mode again. And you can spark that healing process with a very small amount of protein, not as much as you think all the time.
Right.
And a lot of it is about hormone manipulation as well. So healthy fats are what's going to balance your hormones. And for men trying to gain muscle, it's testosterone growth hormone. Those are your two things right there. And you can get that from eating avocados and coconut oil and hemp seeds and chia seeds and nut butters and all these other things. And they all taste great. And you can still keep your protein moderate. But if your hormones are out of whack and you're eating a ton of protein, it doesn't matter how much protein you're going to get. It's not going to help you. It all starts in the hormones. That's everything. So what I want to go on to next, Mark, is we're running out of time here. Let's talk a little bit about food fasting and fitness. We have a program coming up. I'm going to do a quick plug here. I'm not trying to use this as a vehicle, but we have a 12-week program coming up that's going to be kind of similar to what you're watching right now. Just give people a little bit of a intro about what we're doing. I need a sip of water. My mouth is thirsty. You there?
Yep.
Okay, I thought I had a glitch in my computer. So just give everybody a quick shout about what we're doing with our program. And I want you to talk about fasting mimicking a little bit. That's right. That's what I want to get to. Let's talk about fasting mimicking really quick.
Yeah, fasting mimicking diet called prolonged longevity, right? Again, out of USC, Walter Longo, 30 years of research in the lab, identify these nutrient sensing pathways in single-celled organisms, yeast, in mice, and in humans. And it all works relatively the same. Again, these nutrient sensing pathways triggered by glucose and amino acids, protein. And so they have put together a program. They studied it in mice, and they've studied it in humans now, where you can actually eat a certain plant. It's 100% plant-based diets, nuts, soups, and teas, and still get your body into a fasting mode. I did this a couple months ago. It felt like I was fasting. Like, a month before that, I did a 5-day water fast. It felt very similar. I got a box ready to go again. I'm going to do in a couple weeks. But you can eat. So you're getting some macronutrients, some micronutrients, and your body goes into the whole process of, burning all the glucose floating around in your blood. Second, third day, all the glycogen stored in your liver and muscles. Third day, starting to do fourth day autophagy, where it's fourth and fifth day autophagy, where it's eating, these weak and dying cells, precancerous cells, the ones that aren't very healthy. Also, when you go into fasting mode, the healthy cells, they get stronger. They put up a shield to stay strong. The body knows how to maintain itself. And then on that sixth day when you eat, again, that's when the stem cells boost. So that's what they showed with this fasting mimicking diet. Interestingly, it's used very well. They have a product now that they can use with cancer patients, and they're studying it with cancer. So again, when you're fasting, the weak cells are the body consumes, and the strong cells stay strong. They put up a shield to, lack of nutrients and things. And so when they hit the body with chemotherapy, then the stupid cancerous cells, which are like, running around with their shirts off, get pummeled by chemo, and the body's strong, healthy cells, they got the shield up, they stay resistant to chemo. and people are getting less sick afterwards, and the chemo's working better. So it's pretty interesting, to think that you're going to take a cancer patient into a fasting mode and then bombard them with chemotherapy. But the research both on animals and on humans have been shown to be beneficial. Also, similar things occur with this fasting mimicking diet in that neurocognitive ability. It actually gets better. In mice, remember things better when they're in this mode and they're in this fasting mimicking. So, that's the gist of it. It's 5 days long. Again, nut bars, kale chips, soups, but it's all been very specifically designed. There's no additives, there's no preservatives. It's sourced from, other countries, some of them from Spain, some of it from Italy, some of it from the US. And it's really a high quality, fasting mimicking program.
Well, that's actually really cool. And that just goes to show the different derivatives of fasting there are out there. You've got the time restricted feeding, you've got extended fast, prolonged fast, you got the prolonged program, which is fasting mimicking, where you're actually eating and getting fasting benefits. There's something for everybody out there. That's what I'm trying to get through to you people right now. If you're thinking of if you really want to turn the corner and you've tried a lot of different things for weight loss, for optimal health, for getting rid of aches and pains, getting rid of conditions that you have, I implore you to try fasting in some way, shape, or form or capacity. I do feel it is the big thing. I mean, it's been around for like ever. It's just getting popular now. I mean, I've been working out in a fasted state for so long, I can't remember, 20 years probably. And all of a sudden it's a thing now. So everybody's coming to me asking me advice about it. And then I got like really deep into the actual fasting over the past 2 or 3 years and just studying it like a madman. And when I put my mind to something, I figure it out and I do it. And I find the best experts. I align myself with the best people. Mark is one of them. And I just feel that fasting is the thing. And I think it's got longevity and it's going to be here for a long, long time. And the more benefits people are going to start seeing and the more miracles that are going to start happening, it's going to get even more notoriety. So I encourage you to give it a spin and give it a try. And like I was saying before, Mark and I have a 12-week program we're starting. It's either going to be sometime in mid-July or early August, where it's going to be a 12-week educational piece that's going to be dedicated completely to fasting, food, and fitness. Combined together, working on a fasted state. It's going to be an educational piece you're going to get every single week. We got a lot of other things they're going to be involved with it. Prolon is actually going to be part of it. You're going to get the Prolon program built right in. We're going to help wean you into fasting, into longer fasts, starting you out slow and gradual, answering all your questions, keeping you accountable for what you're doing, helping you set up a game plan. I have my workout program, my 6-pack challenge I'm going to be incorporating into it as well. Also, the movie fasting, which I'm actually in. Mark had a lot to do with behind the scenes as well. And also the book, The Longevity Diet, is all going to be included. So if any of you are interested in doing something like that and taking that journey with us, we would love you to take that journey with us and get you from where you've been to where you want to be and keep you there for life and then never see you again because you're not going to need us. Mark, do you have anything to add?
That would be my goal too, right? Is to teach people the right ways to eat, when to eat, how to fast themselves. And, like you're saying, 3 months, because the Prolon clinical trial with humans was a 3-month program where 1 week a month they did the Prolon 5-day fast. And let me just give you the results on this. Body weight decrease, abdominal fat, which is the worst kind to have, that belly fat, waist circumference, lean body mass was actually maintained. Insulin-like growth factors decreased, blood pressure improved, cholesterol improved, C-reactive protein, one of the biggest inflammatory markers for cardiovascular disease, got better. Stem cell production went up. And when they went back 3 months after this, after the 3 cycles, they went back 3 months and they told people, just go back to your regular diet because they didn't want any other confounding factors. Just go back to your regular diet, which you know what that probably was. Mm-hmm. The majority of the patients sustained these results. So it really resets these pathways. And then, by the time you're done with us in 3 months, you're going to know what to do. All right. If you need to order Prolon quarterly, you do that. If you need to do time restricted feeding, which I recommend, you do that. You want to do a little prolonged fast for 2 days, you do that. But this is the really, the goal of this is to help you, not need us and hopefully stay out of the hands of the healthcare system because you know how to control the things that lead to the diseases of aging, which is diabetes, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, and the fastest growing one on all those is dementia, Alzheimer's disease. And so when you downregulate all these pathways in a healthy way, you can turn down some of this stuff and not be, subject to your genes, which really, we get these genes, but what turns them on is us, epigenetics. How do you live? How do you eat? That's what turns the genes on. So our goal with this program is to, like Kevin's saying, teach you how to gradually get into a fasting mode through time-restricted feeding, and then how to do prolonged fasting and do it in a safe way, a clinical way, a way that's been researched, a way that has been proven to have benefit.
Yep, that is pretty much it in a nutshell. And we're pretty much out of time now. So, Mark, I just got one last question for you. What's your favorite ice cream?
I really, thankfully, a sweet tooth is not one thing that I have, but I will admit that, I've got a 5-year-old daughter, and she has pulled me to the ice cream store lately. So I'm not fancy. I like vanilla. I like strawberry. If there's a good, I do like Ben & Jerry's chocolate brownie one, but again, if I do it, I tend to stick with vanilla or strawberry.
All right, you're a conventional guy. Mine happens to be birthday cake, and yes, we do fasting religiously, but we are human too, and we do like ice cream. And the reason I asked that question to people is because I want you to know you can fit ice cream in your diet and still do fasting.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's my take-home message for you, Mark. Thank you very much. It's been an honor having you on the show today. If any of you have any questions or comments, feel free to chime in. Hit up me or Mark if you want to do our program anytime. Remember to go to Pine Pollen Superfoods website and get your discount, all in capital letters 10 at the end, and check out the calendar for the next Precision Fitcation to go and wind at a nice retreat. Until next time, this is K-Rail signing off for Train for Longevity podcast, episode number 5. It's been a pleasure. Talk to y'all later.
Thanks, Kevin.
You got it.